Hey everyone, welcome back. Every year as Christmas approaches, we start seeing that familiar image everywhere. An old man with a white beard, wearing red clothes and a red hat. We call him Santa Claus or Father Christmas. But have you ever wondered where this beloved character actually came from? Was there really a man named Santa Claus? The answer is yes or no. The modern Santa Claus is a legendary figure, but he's based on a very real person, Nicholas, the Bishop of Myra in the 4th century AD. Today we're taking a different kind of trip, not to the North Pole or Santa's workshop, but to ancient libraries, Byzantine manuscripts, and archaeological sites. We'll explore what the actual historical evidence tells us and how a 4th century Greek bishop turned into the red-suited icon we know today. Let's start with a tough fact. We have no direct writings from Nicholas himself, no letters, diaries, or sermons, and no contemporary historian wrote about him either. Why? There are several reasons. Nicholas lived during turbulent times, first under the persecution of Christians during Emperor Diocletian's rule, and then during transition to the Christian Empire under Constantine. Record-keeping wasn't exactly easy back then. Also, Nicholas wasn't an emperor or a famous general. He was a bishop from a small city. Roman historians usually wrote about wars and rulers, not local clergy. The oldest mention of Nicholas comes from the 5th century, about 150 years after his death. Emperor Theodosius II, who ruled from 401 to 450 AD, ordered a church to be built in Myra in his name, showing that his followers were already well established by then. Later, the Byzantine historian Procopius wrote that Emperor Justinian I restored churches in Constantinople dedicated to Nicholas and Priscus. That means by the 6th century, roughly 200 years after his death, Nicholas was famous enough for emperors to build churches in his honor. Clearly, he was a real person. One of the earliest existing texts about Nicholas is a short sermon written by Proclus, Bishop of Constantinople, around 440 AD, just a century after Nicholas's death. It calls Nicholas a holy and virtuous man, but gives few details, suggesting that his story hadn't become legendary yet. Another early text, known as Stratelatis, or the Story of the Soldiers, tells a very famous miracle. 3 innocent military officers are falsely accused and sentenced to death. Nicholas intervenes bravely and grabs the commander's hand before he strikes, and saves the men through argument and moral authority. This story shows that Nicholas was seen as courageous and just, not only generous. The most complete ancient biography of Nicholas was written around 710 AD by Michael the Archimandrite. It became the foundation of most later legends, though it was written about 4 centuries after Nicholas's death, so it naturally included exaggerations. Still, many scholars believe Michael used older and oral sources. One famous story tells of a poor father who couldn't provide dowries for his 3 daughters and planned to sell them into servitude. Nicholas secretly threw 3 bags of gold through their window on 3 successive nights. The coins supposedly fell into stockings hung by the fireplace. A well-known legend says Nicholas attended the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and slapped the heretic Arius who denied Christ's divinity. It's a fiery story, but is it true? Unfortunately, probably not. Nicholas's name doesn't appear in any official list of attendees. The story only emerges centuries after the event. Arius himself likely wasn't even present at the council, and no contemporary record mentions any physical fight. A later list, written by Theodorus Lector around 510 AD, includes Nicholas, but that's 200 years too late to be reliable. But this story caught on because it portrayed Nicholas as a passionate defender of faith, exactly the image the church wanted to promote. Real or not, it showed how people saw him, brave and outspoken. One of the strongest proofs of Nicholas's existence is his tomb. As early as the 6th century, pilgrims were visiting his burial site in Myra in modern-day Turkey. Historian Jeremy Seal points out, legendary figures don't have tombs, only real people do. In the 1950s, during renovations of the Basilica of San Nicola in Bari, Italy, where his remains were said to be moved in the 11th century, Nicholas's skull and bones were studied and x-rayed in detail. In 2004, Dr. Caroline Wilkinson from the University of Manchester used those measurements to digitally reconstruct his face. The results were fascinating. Nicholas was about 168 cm tall with a broken nose that had healed partially before his death, possibly an injury from persecution under Diocletian. In December 2024, archaeologists announced the discovery of a limestone sarcophagus near the original burial site in Myra. It could be Nicholas's actual first resting place before his remains were taken to Italy. If confirmed, it would be one of the most significant Christian archaeological finds in decades. So how did a Greek bishop become a jolly man in a red suit? The transformation happened slowly, across centuries and cultures. By the Middle Ages, Nicholas was one of Europe's most beloved saints. After Mary and John the Baptist, he was the third most venerated in Byzantium. His image appeared in countless icons and paintings. In Germany and the Netherlands, December the 6th, St. Nicholas Day, became a gift-giving celebration. In Dutch, his name was Sinterklaas. In the 1600s, Dutch settlers brought Sinterklaas to New Amsterdam, modern-day New York. The first recorded mention in America appeared in Rivington's Gazetteer on December 23, 1773. In 1809, writer Washington Irving included St. Nicholas as the patron of New York in his History of New York, further popularizing the figure. The real turning point came in 1823 with the anonymous poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, now better known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. It described Nicholas as a merry, plump man with a white beard who traveled in a sleigh pulled by a reindeer, entering homes through chimneys to deliver gifts. During the US Civil War, political cartoonist Thomas Nast drew Santa Claus for Harper's Weekly, giving him his rotund figure, cheerful face, and fair-lined red suit. President Lincoln even credited these drawings with boosting Union soldiers' morale. By the 1920s, the modern Santa image, with his red suit, white trim, North Pole home, elves, and workshop, was firmly established. In Britain, Father Christmas existed separately as a symbol of festive winter joy. By the 19th century, he merged with the American Santa into one figure. In the Netherlands and Belgium, Sinterklaas remains distinct. He is still portrayed as a bishop in a red mitre and robe. Some scholars think Northern mythology also influenced Santa's story. Odin, the Norse god, was said to ride through the winter sky on his eight-legged horse Sleipnir, wearing a cloak and long beard, delivering gifts along the way. It's clear that Santa legend is a blend. St. Nicholas's charity, Odin's winterscape, and Father Christmas's festive cheer, all fused into the joyful, red-suited figure we know today. So, was Santa Claus real? It depends on what you mean by real. The man in the red suit is a product of myth and imagination. But St. Nicholas of Myra was very real. A compassionate, brave bishop who helped children and the poor, stood for justice, and inspired generations. Over the centuries, his story absorbed bits of folklore, art, and culture until it became the iconic Santa Claus, a symbol of generosity, kindness, and hope that still shines every December night. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving us a like and subscribing to our channel.